Awesome. With that said, then Alex, thank you for your time, but I think we'll come back because I've left a few more questions I wanted to ask you. And our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Thank you.
Okay, now the part we get to talk about you.
Okay.
Which as an introvert, I know you're dreading, but
It's
Carol,
okay.
yeah. So we actually, I'm not sure if I met you when you were a teacher up at art teacher up at Medway, or whether it was just through the process of the gallery, etc. But I mean, it was a few years ago I met you, and I loved your work.
Yeah.
But just your story was so fascinating as an art teacher.
Really? Oh yeah.
Well, no, as an art teacher, and then becoming even more of not just a practicing artist, but I remember you would always take sabbaticals which I think is really cool. So tell us your story.
Sabbaticals?
Well, not sabbaticals, or just your story. Like, why are you an artist? Yeah. Like, who is Carol Finkbeiner Thomas?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I was one of those high school students that, I was a really strong low-level B student. Mm-hmm. But my art marks were always really high. Yeah. And I was drawing and painting from the time I was a little kid. Yeah. And I didn't come from a creative family. Yeah. So nobody in my family did anything like that.
So you were just drawn to it.
Where that came from. Yeah. That was just part of me all the time. Yeah. But my parents were supportive. They gave me art lessons when I was a kid. And I just loved it. And I just wanted to create all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. So you obviously followed that path in terms of education, etc.
Yes, yep.
And was the desire to be a teacher? Because you were a teacher for how many years?
30 years.
Which I think is amazing, in terms of, because there's a real place for that. But some artists don't, they struggle with that. But so how did that work?
I came from a very traditional family too, that I wasn't going to be just an artist. I had to actually make a living at the same time. And so I started working at the art gallery here in London. Okay. I moved back to London after university. Yeah. And I worked at the art gallery for a few years. Yeah. And I worked with a girl and she said, let's apply to teachers college. Oh. And I said, I don't want to be a teacher. I can't talk in front of people. And she said, we won't get in anyway, let's go. And so we did, and we got in.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and so that was the start of it.
And so for 30 years, you've been a teacher at the high school level, a high school art teacher. Yep. One of the previous editions of the Paint Box, we actually went to my high school art teacher.
Who's that?
Ruth Ann Murner.
Now, I did a maternity leave for Ruth Ann. Yeah. When I was starting out as a teacher.
Yeah, and part of the reason I did it was because she opened up all these things with regards to art, and I just actually loved it. I kind of fell in love with it because of the art teacher that I had.
That's awesome.
Which I think is amazing. So you're an art teacher, and you're trying to explore and get these kids turned on to art when sometimes they think it's a bird course and it's not. So how, did you enjoy it?
I did. The kids are the best part of teaching, for sure. And I still have friendships with a lot of the students that I taught. And
did any of them kind of gravitate towards the artistic?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I've got some that have gone on with really successful careers in visual arts.
And do you still teach now that you're retired?
Just workshops.
Just workshops. Yeah. It's a bit of a different mindset, isn't it?
To do a workshop?
Well, no, to teach, I guess to do a workshop, but to teach versus actually creating yourself.
Oh, I think so too. I think there's lots of really good artists out there who aren't necessarily able to teach what they're doing. And there's lots of really good teachers out there who maybe aren't willing to put in the time or whatever to do the visual arts side of things. Right. I always tried to walk the line between the two things.
And so is that the purpose of the sabbaticals?
That was the purpose of the sabbaticals.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about them.
So I was about 5 years out of retirement, and I knew that when I retired, I wanted to have something in place in terms of a visual arts career. So I decided I would take every second semester off and just paint and see what happened.
So we were discussing a little bit earlier about how you do have a Bachelor's of Fine Art,
Yes.
you have a University Education Art, but some of the real education that happened with regards to the process happened with your connection with Kim Harrison.
That's true.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about that?
I first came to London and I was working at the art gallery, as I said, and a good friend of mine there was Craig Marucci, and Craig taught life drawing at Museum London for a lot of years.
Okay.
So I would take courses from him.
Okay.
And I said something about wanting to get back into painting because I hadn't painted for years. And he said, well, you need to look up Kim Harrison. So I went to Kim's studio and that was the start.
Yeah. And so he mentored you for how many years?
7 years.
7 years. Wow.
And then became a good friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Through that whole process.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So
It is.
that mentorship process, it was kind of a self-directed process, right? But Kim is really giving you exercises, taking your work, and it's like intentional practice with a personal coach almost.
It is. Yeah.
Actually,
it was very much like that. Yeah. And a very small group, like maybe only 4 or 5 of us. Every Tuesday evening, we'd get together. And so a lot of friendships came out of that.
Oh, that's great. So you had all those, you had the mentorship. I'm not sure what the friendship with Kim, but basically from that, you still developed your own style and your own voice, which is probably one of the biggest things that takes a long time to figure out, doesn't it, when you're getting back to learning?
I am still figuring it out. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that process ever ends, or not for me anyways. Yeah. I'm not the kind of person who's going to be satisfied to do the same painting over and over again. So I have to move in different directions, and that's a really painful process, actually.
And so, it's some representational landscape, it's some abstract. So is it the idea that drives you, or is it a bit of the process?
It's the process, for sure. Yeah. It's about mark making.
Yeah.
And it's about the way to paint layers and interesting things, and about creating the idea of space on a 2-dimensional surface. Yeah. And memory and all those kinds of things. And that's interesting to me.
And so what
doesn't matter if I'm doing a landscape or
whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's interesting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Which is partly why, we were talking earlier about how long it takes to actually complete a painting. Yeah. But what do you do when you're blocked then, when you're struggling with the bit of the creative impulse? Yeah.
So for me, I work on 4 or 5 paintings at once.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Put one, because you're working in oil too, and I'm working in layers, I have to put them aside and let them dry for a bit. Yeah. Spend a lot of time sitting on that couch, staring at them, seeing if I can figure out what it needs. Yeah. Turning it upside down is very helpful.
So, because you were talking, you draw sometimes the landscape out of what's there, so you've got to be able to spend time and think. Actually, it's more like the sculptor process, isn't it? When you read about Michelangelo and how he sculpted, he'd look at the rock and see or the marble, and see what was in it before he actually sculpted, and then he would start chipping away. So, except you're adding paint.
Yeah, so I'm no Michelangelo. But yes, it is kind of the same sort of thing. It's that you have to stop and listen and figure out what a painting needs. It is like a chess game. Yeah. Every time I make a move on this side of the canvas, something else over here is affected if I'm listening. And I'm not just painting, like if I have the end point in mind before I start, if I know how it's going to turn out, if I'm painting the same painting over and over again, then that information, the voice of the painting gets lost. Yeah. Then how do you know when you're done? Does the painting just tell you don't? Sometimes, Sometimes they're done for a while, and then you get it back, or you see it again after a long period of time, and you recognize that it needs another layer. Wow. So what's interesting about that is that you're not working from photographs so much. You're working from your memory, and you're working from your experiences, and you're working from that. And that can be really intimidating because you don't have the path. Like for some, so. Yeah, I've learned to trust the process, right? I've learned to really trust that the beginning of it might be difficult. Yeah. But I will sort it out in the end. Yeah.
That's good. That can be difficult, isn't it, as you're going through it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's so easy to hate something because you can see everything that's wrong with it and not see what's right with it.
Yeah, and things do go through an ugly period.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. This is like our characters, right? As we get older.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, wow. So it's really intuitive, which is great. And you're creating your own map as you kind of go through it.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's the fun part. That's the challenge for me.
Yeah.
If I wasn't doing that, it wouldn't be as much fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have the typical questions.
Okay, go ahead.
A little bit. So you've seen Into the Actor's Studio?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is some of the version of that, in terms of, what is the meaning of your art? Or what's the meaning of art? If I say, what's art?
Oh, what's art? An honest act of creation, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the honest act of creation by the creator. I think it has to be for me to start with. If I can't be worried about whether it's going to sell or whether it's going to fit or whether
someone's going to like it.
Someone's going to like it. I mean, we walk a line with that because, I am still I have commercial galleries. I'm a commercial artist. So I'm not a pure artist in the sense that I am still concerned about my audience. Yeah. But the painting has to be for me to start with.
Wow. I sometimes struggle with the difference between being a painter and an artist. I still...
I had a hard time calling myself an artist for a long time.
I'm still struggling with that in many ways. Because I
don't think that's a bad thing. I think people call themselves artists very quickly.
Yeah.
I know even in the high school situation, people always wanted to call my students artists. And I didn't like that so much because I think there's no shame in being an art student.
Yep.
There's no shame in being a painter or a learner or a student of art.
Yeah.
And I have really, I guess, maybe a high standard of what it means to be an artist.
Well, there's a lot more work that goes into being an artist than we tend to think in terms of it's a lot of practice as well as just even the act of creating. It requires time, and requires time to get good at the craft that you're doing as well. That's, I think that's definitely true. But for me, it's also, it's not that I don't know what's in my head. I think there's too many images in my head, and I might do something in a painting and it's not either what I meant to do. And I love the process you're talking about because it's the mark making that matters. But sometimes I have this predetermined idea that, okay, I want to draw a face. I draw a face. It doesn't even look like a face. So influences, like if you were to look at people that inspire you, let's say you get to the end of your life and you get to have dinner with a few people. Who is it you would want to have some dinner with?
Oh, heavens. Those are really difficult questions, I think.
That's the one question Catherine Maurice said the one time.
That's a ridiculous question. Stupid question, that is. Well, I just think my influences have changed over the years, maybe. And that's a difficult one. But I think there's so many good artists that I've seen, both in museum settings, but also just in day-to-day settings. Right. There's so many people that are doing interesting work.
Yeah.
And
that inspires you instead of intimidates you?
Totally intimidates me at the same time.
Yeah.
But yes, it inspires me.
Yeah, to keep going.
It just makes me wish I could do that easier, but it doesn't come easily, I don't think.
One of the questions in the Into the Actor Studio is the favorite word, which doesn't necessarily translate into art, but do you have a favorite color, motif, kind of something that you just...
Well, I guess for me, like when I make a mark or a brushstroke, I really like to have energy. Yep. And I also think in the abstraction of the mark, when you make a mark, and you can actually see depth, or you can see something, like if I just take
something you weren't meaning,
a cloth and I pull it across a canvas, but I can see trees out of that. I think that's fabulous.
Oh, wow. It's kind of, that's the, oh, wow, kind of moment when you step back. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Is there, so again, they asked, is there a swear word you love? Like when you're, what peeves you the most? What kind of just makes you go, ugh, the most when you think about kind of the creative process for you?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard question, but I think sometimes I feel like I wish I was braver in the creative process.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know I probably seem brave in some instances, but
wow.
I wish I was really.
Okay. The reason I'm kind of reacting to that a little bit is because your whole process seems really brave, where you start.
It is, but it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But
so
when I force myself to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So when do you think of yourselves as not being brave then?
Well, I think I'm trying right now to sort of like change styles.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's such a painful process. And I wish I could just abandon one and start the next and have it work. But it's not the way it is. And it's not the way it is for me anyway.
Yeah. So, and is that partly you're trying to change your process and trying to change what you do? Like, how are you doing that then?
Yeah, I'm trying to do it honestly. So I'm trying to do it in little increments rather than jump off completely into a new direction.
Okay.
I'm trying to just sort of like turn the ship a little bit.
Okay. So instead of, let's say, getting rid of all of this and then just playing with water sculpture or something.
Or total abstraction.
Total abstraction.
Or something. Yes, right. Which I think, I don't want to mimic, right? I want to jump off from where I'm already have put the work in to this area, and I'm trying to change it in a way, right, that makes sense for the body of work that I already have.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting, though, in terms of, and what's interesting about that is that, I mean, as you're talking about changing your direction, it's like you're slowly moving the ship over this way, but it is, you don't necessarily know where you're going, which is
don't have a clue.
Which is difficult. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's so interesting, though. I mean, it's terrifying, isn't it?
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, it is for me. I don't know. I just think it's frustrating, is what it is. Yeah.
It's funny. I sometimes struggle. As we talked before, I struggle to knowing what's good or not. I struggle. Mm-hmm. I don't have trouble starting if I'm just playing, but I have trouble starting if I'm going to do a painting. If I'm just going to play with paint, I can just go up to a canvas and just start being free.
Okay, what's the difference between playing with canvas and starting a painting?
I know. That's,
what's the difference, though?
The difference is, I have to produce a painting for X, or a show is coming up, or versus
expectations.
Yeah, a little bit. I think the expectation, getting rid of the expectation, is a little.
I think that's why artists hate commissions.
Yeah,
so much, because there's like an overhanging expectation.
Yeah. Before
you even start the painting.
Yeah. So. But I think the starting doesn't scare me. The middle part and knowing where to take it becomes. Yep. It's like that's really difficult.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Wow. So I look at your work and think there's immense bravery.
Oh, thanks.
Actually, in the work that you do. I love the work that you do.
I think I'm always going to be, like, I fight against my own nature, because I think I'm always going to be a fairly conservative painter.
Yeah.
And that's not really what I want to be, but that's who I am.
Really? So, no. So you consider your painting to be conservative?
I think so. Don't you?
I don't think I know enough. So why is it conservative?
Because there's still an element of realism involved. There's still an element of landscape. And I think in that sense, there's still a conservative quality to it.
Okay. So landscape is a little more conservative.
I think so.
Just in terms of being tied to a realistic.
Historically it is.
Historically, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
I'm never going to be cutting edge painter, because I'm not a cutting edge person.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. That's just who I am.
Yeah, but you're cutting in that kind of context, though. You're cutting edge for yourself, though, as you're spreading out. And I sometimes find people are cutting edge for the sake of cutting edge. There's lots of that. Yeah,
these days, and that's where the attention comes, I think, for a lot of people. But you got to be true to yourself, right? I think true to an artist and true to what's over there and whatever's coming out. So
And this is where I don't know enough. It was part of the reason I love doing the paint box, because I get to talk to interesting people doing interesting things. I'm not sure I would have ever called you conservative. So this is.
I think it maybe is about how I view myself,
yeah,
and about how I view my work, and how I'm never satisfied with what I'm doing. So I'm always finding fault.
Wow. Also, and it's our predisposition in terms of what some of those words mean, right?
Absolutely.
Conservative, old school, not necessarily as good, but actually that's not necessarily true. It
might not be true.
Might not be true,
but it's my reality.
Yeah.
Right. It's the thing I struggle with my own work. Like when you talk about you're not sure if you like your work.
Yeah.
Of course, I feel the same way.
Yeah. Huh. But you still like the process of doing your work, right?
Absolutely. It's everything. That's everything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really interesting.
Once I finish painting something, I'm not as interested in it anymore.
Huh. So you don't view your work as your children that you have trouble giving away. Your work is a process, and when you're done with it in that sense.
I think at the beginning, when I first started painting, and I would have a success, I didn't want to get rid of that. I wanted to keep that. And there are still paintings that I'll keep for a while because there's something in them that maybe informs what's coming.
Right.
So I always want to hold on to those.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I do think that you get over that pretty quickly. When you're painting a lot, when you work a lot, things become less precious.
They become less precious, and you know what? You need a canvas sometimes to work on, don't you? But that's probably true.
Yeah.
Because you're in this process, and then you look back a few years, at some of your work, and even if it's good, you're not at the same spot. So you're
not. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm attached to the act of painting.
Wow. Yeah.
Rather than the finished product, I think.
That sounds like that's kind of what the work is. I shouldn't say it sounds like, that is what the work is all about when we talk about it, which is great. So could I ever come and film you painting? Actually, we talked about this. Both of us hate people. Sure. No, people hate. Well, I don't like people watching me paint.
You could do it if. Yeah, you could do it.
Yeah,
but it might not turn out so great.
It's not comfortable.
We could do it.
Say. Yeah. Actually, we should go plein air sometime. That would be great.
That would be fun.
Mm-hmm. So is plein air still part of your process? Plein air means going and painting full air, painting outside. Do you still?
I do occasionally go plein air, but I do a lot of sketching outside.
Yeah.
I think more than painting.
Okay.
It's just practical, I think.
Yeah, actually that's true. And is the sketching then that's just to work on observation, or does it help inform some of the pieces you're doing?
Sometimes it helps inform the pieces I'm doing.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's just about observation.
Yeah. And practicing. Actually, I love sketching. I love sketching, but even more than I love sketching, I love looking at other artists' sketchbooks.
Do you?
I do. I think they're so fascinating. And sometimes I like them more than the finished work because you see the process, which is kind of interesting.
Have you seen my warm-ups on Instagram?
I have. Yeah, I think those are great.
I just do those little drawing warm-ups.
Yeah.
It just loosens me up.
Yeah. And you come into the studio every day?
Most of the days.
Most days. Which is great. Okay. And any question I should ask you that I'm not?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
Do you want to try a painting?
Like later or now?
Like now. Should we try a little something? Or
sure. Yeah, actually, let's try painting.
You want to try a little something?
Yeah, let's try.
Just like a real quick little something?
Yeah, let's do so. That would be great. Yeah, let's actually do that. Okay. That'd be great. So this is a piece of
Masonite.
That you have primed and painted.
Primed, ready to go.
Yeah. Okay.
So you want to try like a little quick
sure.
one?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do some palette knife work, I think.
My goodness. Okay, this is awesome.
Is it?
Yeah. No. Okay.
And then let's get a little palette in between us first.
Sure.
We'll just.
You mean we can't use this one right here?
Yeah, we can.
No.
We can, but it's just way over there.
It's way over there. So, this is okay. So you do warm up exercises to get yourself going, and you do this every time. Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. And so do you want to start? We want to just do a little landscape.
I'm sure.
Is that what you think?
Yeah. No, you're the teacher right now.
I'm the teacher right now.
So you tell me.
Terrifying. Okay, so I always generally start with like a hill of some sort, or something like that.
So right now we're putting blue, and what kind of blue is that? That is
Ultramarine.
Ultramarine. Okay. So.
And then
I love the fact there's no lid on this.
There's
this
no
is
lids
so good.
on any of these.
Oh my goodness!
It's terrible.
That
I'm just a bad person.
How do you not get this all over this?
Covered?
Yeah,
I am covered by the end of it.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so let's.
Okay.
I'm going to get a little. And we won't bother with painting mediums. So sometimes I use like a painting medium just to get it to dry faster.
Right. And so for you, the painting medium to get it dry faster is?
It depends. Sometimes it's
like Gamsol or
a cold wax or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
actually,
that's what's in that big container there.
Oh, someday I want to try cold wax.
You want to try it?
No, but the cold wax makes it dry faster.
It does make it dry faster.
So cold wax also gives it some body?
Does. So if we take a scoop of this stuff, I can get some out. So you can see, like, it's
I have
just
never used this. This is awesome.
Yeah, so it's just like a wax medium.
Okay.
And you just take a little bit of it and put it in with our paint.
So are both of these ultra medium?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is that enough, or do I need to?
You've got enough there, I think.
Okay.
And you just sort of like with mediums, I think the rule of thumb is like no more than, you don't want it like half.
Okay.
You want more paint than medium.
Okay. So I've got a little bit more green.
So I'm just going to take my palette knife.
Yep.
And I'm just going to like decide where my horizon line is to start with.
And generally, you don't put the horizon line right in the middle.
Sure, but I like breaking rules. You can do anything you want.
You can do whatever you want. So you can put your horizon line.
So I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to like just sort of like play.
Okay. Okay.
See if I can make an interesting mark to start with.
Okay.
And then I'll just take something else.
And go, oh, wow, okay. Okay, then I will.
Exactly, right?
Okay, yeah.
See, you're just having fun.
Yeah.
But like, think about too, making a mark and letting it sit.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the thing. I'm not very good.
Like,
I have difficulty with it.
If you can make one mark instead of 15, then it'll be better. Now, I'm just going to turn this upside down.
It's true, but the energy sometimes. So I just jump in and just want to scribble.
Right. But it's sort of easier to scribble and then not think about what each mark is actually creating.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want, especially with oils, things get muddy fast. Right?
I do. But there you go.
Fun though.
It is really fun. So the favorite part of this, we've got, can you show that?
All right.
That's right. So there's the teacher, there's the student. And actually we'll play with that a little bit because who knows what it can become.
Yeah, absolutely.
But look at this. I think this is my favorite. The palette.
It's maybe not a good sign when your palette is better than your painting.
Probably.